A month ago, this tractor would have cost $450 to fill up to the top with diesel. Now it costs over $600. Farmers, along with everyone else, are suffering the consequences of constantly rising diesel prices.
Gas in Los Angeles just hit $8.21 a gallon at one station. $8 for a gallon of gas.
Now the people around the world are panicking because we are not getting diesel.
And it does seem like a lot of this has been taken out of the news, that diesel prices are skyrocketing and the availability of it is decreasing, which puts us in a large problem. We are coming into harvest season right now. It was difficult enough to get the crops planted and not put enough fertilizer on them. So globally, if you've done the math or followed others who do, 20% is what they're talking about at the minimum this year of crops and grains not being grown. So what we got last year, subtract 20% from that. At the same time, that's just the estimates of what is not going to mature in the fields. What happens now when we throw a diesel debacle on top of that? Strait of Hormuz, yeah, it might open tomorrow, maybe on again, off again, but the refineries are being hit around the planet, whether they be the refinery fires just magically in America and in Australia and in Canada, or if it's straight up wartime between Ukraine and Russia and all across the Middle East. We got fires happening in the EU, and diesel exporters are now keeping their supplies in country. So this distillate is another term for jet fuels, diesel fuels, distillates. It's going to get lean. It's going to get really expensive for the harvest season. And a lot of people are asking, okay, well, walk the chain back. If it gets expensive for tractors in the fields, gee, do you think it'll get expensive for 18-wheelers? How about other things that use diesel to keep our world running? That is another linchpin, fertilizers and diesel fuels. And it both seems that they're being taken out at the knees. Nobody's being warned. We should have been told to grow gardens through the summer because the fertilizer debacle across the Middle East, that should have been headline news every day, but it wasn't. So now here we are. Fuel prices national average, gas $3.97, diesel $5.05, but I'm going to say clear the throat. $6.34 Love's Southeast U.S. and $5.59. That's way above the national average. Diesel $6.99. Come on. And Chevron put it at $7.50. That is way above the national average. So somebody is not reporting correctly. And Germany is just the canary in the coal mine for the rest of the world here. Gas storage, like natural gas, is at 50% in August. They are not going to have enough to get through the winter. Also, diesel prices in Munich, €2.50 per liter. Multiply by 4 because there's 4 liters in a gallon. Actually, a little more. $10 a gallon minimum for diesel prices is what they're looking at. We struggle to keep our country together without political unrest at $5 gas and $7 diesel. What happens when it goes to $10 diesel and $6 gas? A lot of things broke during 2008 and 9 because of that fuel price spike. We are precariously close to all this. There's a reset happening if you haven't noticed it. Our entire world's being remolded. If you didn't notice during like 2018, 19, and then the vid came, and then we got a year breathing room, and now this whole AI and everything's shifting, and then food's getting more difficult. We're not growing as much. The fuels are lean. All the chemicals we need to produce everything, plastics are lean. Our world's just being turned off knob by knob. BASF from Germany should have been the signal that it was all being shut off slowly. You spook a global populace to awareness and movement if you do it at the same time. We're in the pot, the frog, and every lever that gets turned off is another supply chain or another major constituent that keeps our world moving is being shut off piece by piece by piece. And you can see it, all the prices across the world are rising everywhere for everything because all those pieces are being turned off in unison. Feeling the heat, the exhaustion, the withering, being out in the heat. The summer returns once again. Time to rehydrate. We got hydration that works as hard as you do. Perform Light, got sodium, potassium, magnesium, superfood recovery blend, vitamin C. And as Victory Nutrition International would say, recharge, replenish, recover faster. If you want to support this channel, support our advertisers. Fatigue-free summer. Stay hydrated. Perform Light. Click on that link in the description box below.
You know, we've got this perfect diesel storm, so to speak, right? We've got, not only do we have the war with Iran, what's really driving diesel lately has been Ukraine. Ukraine's attacks on Russian refineries. Europe is still dependent on Russian refineries for a lot of their heavy diesel. Now they're looking to the United States to fill that void, and that's driving up prices here as well as around the globe.
Distillates, which includes jet fuel, but also diesel, also now below the 5-year range. This is why your gasoline and diesel prices are going up, because we're running out of inventory. Why? Because we're exporting it to the rest of the world to try and keep prices down.
And that's the big thing. In Russia, I got another couple slides for you here. Farmers were trading fuel because they can't get the diesel. So if Russia's not going to harvest that much wheat, Ukraine's not going to harvest that much. They're smashing and slashing each other's refineries. Diesel's lean across Europe. Diesel is not being exported out of Russia any longer. They're pulling all the fuels back in, nothing for export. Refineries burning across the planet. This is directly going to impact our crop yields. And when it does, that 20% become 30%, and then prices just run away from there. Seems like it's a planned, prolonged event to push us into this new whatever world that is expected that we move into. We didn't go quietly during the 2021, 22, 23 era. Now we're going to be pulled across that broken glass to the other side, whether you want it or not. That's how intense this is going to become. And Chris Martenson, one of my faves over at Peak Prosperity, shout out. This is what he's talking about here, the refined petroleum products going out of our country, making our prices higher to try to keep down and keep the civil unrest at a minimum until they don't want to keep it at a minimum any longer. You're looking at the green and the orange, the distillate fuel oil, and jet fuels is exactly what they're talking about. And if we do look at diesel prices, it just seems like it's continuing up, and it is not going to stop. So if this is any indication, this shall keep going and going and going to $7 to $10+ in the future. And how will we be able to handle that? Because XOM's CEO, this is a good quote right here. While we're looking at Russia's Stratov oil refinery ablaze, I would add that the supply of diesel is tighter than yesterday, but looser than tomorrow. Everyday capacity is destroyed and global output falls. Oil should have been $400 a barrel long ago. That's coming from the CEO. And then another CEO, this is from Shell Oil, admits diesel in short supply. Behind the scenes, refineries are entering the danger zone of going over 100% capacity. And this is where things break, blow up, and accidents happen. At 102% capacity, this is where you always see these refineries. They'll get too full and the pressure won't work correctly, and boom, and then we got another refinery down. So the Street, picking it up on another interview, was explaining that refiners are now prioritizing jet fuel because they're getting more profit out of that. Jet fuel, they're selling for a higher price. They're putting everything else on the back burner, no pun intended. But refineries are now prioritizing jet fuel production because the prices are higher and they're not producing much diesel, which is creating that feedback loop as refineries go down and other refineries are producing less. And we got diesel retail prices in the US being kept artificially low. They're pushing for fuel price suppression ahead of the midterms. And after the midterms, they're going to let that pressure off. And man, we are going to see some things just go vertical. And then something not a lot of people are talking about, also the shutdown and maintenance in some of these refineries. Shell CEO coming back in and say they're going to reduce capacity to 93% their quarter for maintenance. They're going to go from 102 which is incredible dangerous anyway. And then they're going to throttle it back to 93. So you can already see there's writing on the wall if you're out there to look. But putting all these pieces together, newscasts don't do that. They just show you one piece, and then, well, you can grab that piece and try to weave it into a story like this. There's a lot of things going on out here that are showing, especially when we get into October, September, October, these wheat harvests coming in, corn harvests as well, soybean harvests. I mean, how much is that going to add to the cost or strand crops in the field because they just can't get it? Ukraine and breadbasket, they didn't grow much this year anyway, but now they got massive shortages of diesel over there. So the government's stepping in to fix prices. I think they're going to put it at 100. I think they're going to lock it at 100. It was around 200, so they're forcing companies to bring the prices down. Others were selling it at about like 88. I saw some interviews, and they're trying to cap it at 100. So the lower, below 100 are going to bring it to 100. Those above are going to bring it to 100. Everybody's going to stabilize at 100. Massive fuel shortages. People rushing out to buy as much as they can. So Ukraine, breadbasket, going to be difficult. Then we got China with the same thing happening, and their harvests have just been destroyed tremendously by rainfalls and hail this season. So they're going to be out on the open market looking for more food as well. So this is just the perfect storm here.
Gas prices jumped this week as the war in Iran escalates. Right now, a gallon of regular averages $4.11 nationwide. That's up 12 cents from last week. Gas prices are highest in California, lowest in Arkansas. Americans are also experiencing the biggest jump in grocery prices in a half a century, up 33% since 2019.
And again, you see that difference in all these prices. The average prices for this newscast and this, week and that week, and nothing is stable. You're being gaslit. These prices are what they're trying to fix them for the local audience to make them not go into a panic. Because if everybody wants to go buy something at the exact same time, that causes a shortage. Remember the toilet paper thing back in COVID time? News said toilet paper shortage, so everybody went out to buy. Imagine when the news goes food shortage, fuel shortage. Oh, that's going to be a day you're going to remember. That'll be one of those days that will always remember for the rest of your life. If it comes out on the news and they do both in the same day, or even one, it's going to cost, like 1970s oil embargo, people waiting in line to get fuel. I mean, you will never forget that as long as you live. If you were waiting in line during that time, that will always stay with you. This will be this type of event that will stay with you for the rest of your life. You'll always remember that. Let's talk about farmers and some food here. I can't buy a whole lot of fuel at this price right now. I bought 2,000 gallons of diesel for the farm, and the price was $9,500. That's right around $5. But again, if you're going to an ag co-op, you're going to get a little cheaper than you would at regular petrol station. So even at that price on the wholesale at an ag co-op, and new studies coming out showing farmers paid an extra $1.4 billion for diesel during the planting season, and that's an extra $1,500 they have to use to fill these tractors. And at the same time, Russia extends diesel and gasoline export ban until the end of January. They need it for their own. Plus, the refineries are smashed to bits. Yay, go team. Give them more destructive flying devices. And Russia reaps what it sowed. Shortages now hit food. Well, not just for you, for the world. Thanks so much. And I'll take you to the highlighted word diesel. It says there's no diesel or money. Farmers are forced to trade with each others to be able to get fuels. And what that means was that some farmers, like the other guy, for example, bought 2,000 gallons, and they still have some in their tank. So they had more than they need currently, and they're sitting waiting for the harvest season to come. Well, other farmers don't have any, zero, and they need it now just for even the basics to get ready for the harvest season. So they're out there trading to see what kind of fuels they can get. This is the way it is in Russia. And by the way, Russia, main grain exporter on the planet. United States, we went into 150-year lows on grain production this year in the wheat. Australia, struggling, way low. And you just look around and you say that breadbasket, formerly called Ukraine, that's going offline. The amount of food we're not growing, and then all the losses in China are staggering from the floods this year. So you start to add all these on, like there's a loss here, loss there. That's why a lot of analysts are putting it at the minimum, I would say between 19 to say 25% yield loss this year in the grains, specifically wheat and rice. Those two, not so much soy, not so much corn, but wheat and rice. Put it right up at that category. Those are major grain staples for a lot of people. When those prices go up that much, it's causing a problem. Food's going to get more expensive. So it's going to slowly grind up. So just get ready for higher prices wherever you look, at least for the next, 6 to 9 months. Are you kidding me? Every last drop. This is going to be, you're going to hear that sound across every petrol station on the planet. And I'll bring you back here. Words of wisdom behind what you're seeing in the daily news, fed to you, curated with all the same stories across the same news outlets. Nothing's investigative any longer. There's been a lot of discussion for months about when rationing hits, food prices rise, agriculture as in ag, farms, construction, long-haul trucking, and every product touched by a truck, which is everything, costs more than it does now. Think back to 2008 and 9. What did you learn? Think about 2020 to 2023. What did you learn during COVID? Well, I'll agree. We all learned empty shelves. You saw spots there. Fuel spikes, supply chains break. And here's the interesting one. Neighbors, we thought we knew, acting in ways we didn't expect. Government as well. We're going to do that 2.0, actually 3.0 this time. But the difference is there was something to fall back on. There was not a disruption in fuels and fertilizers and plastics and chemicals and transportation and the economy all happening in unison. This is something really, if you're going to look at it, I saw some analysts were saying this is like a once in a 2,000 year event of all these risks layering on top. And if we do go into some sort of collapse-ish event here, it would rival the Roman Empire. At that type of drop and then subsequent unrest that would shatter belt everything that we know as governments and blocks of nations. It's all going to be reshuffled, and then I guess it'll snap together like a magnet does. Anyway, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Please have this discussion with your friends and family. Share the video. And also stay connected. I just started up a Facebook, a Threads, and an Instagram where we're throwing our shorts from the channel up there. And on TikTok, X, and Rumble.com. BitChute as well. And please remember, the link for PerformLite is in the description box below. Great way to keep yourself hydrated as we go through the summer and we get on to staying out longer and doing more tasks than we're used to. Yeah, we need water, but we also need minerals and salts in there to keep us hydrated. Click on that link in the description box below. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.